Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. Today we're going to be reviewing parts 2 and 3 of Tomb of the Cybermen. It's really hard with this story. I like Tomb of the Cybermen, but I am remembering more and more that I like key notes of the story and find parts of the story kind of drag. And a lot of it just blurs together for me. I find Tomb of the Cybermen, aside from those beat points, forgettable. I like it. The cliffhanger for episode 2 is really good with the cyber controller waking up. You belong to us. You will be like us. Great cliffhanger. I love that cliffhanger. The cliffhanger for episode 3 is pretty good with the gun firing right before it cuts out. I like the fact it actually does fire right when it cuts out. That's pretty cool. The iconic scene of the Icemen thawing out and waking up is phenomenal. I love that scene. It is shot really well. The incidental music right there is really good too. I'm trying to remember if that's some of the same Cybermen music from 10th Planet, because I know it's used in other stories. It's just kind of the Cyberman theme from the 60s. But I love that scene when you see them falling out and then freeze back, and then when you see them falling out again and waking up and coming out of their tombs. Such an iconic Doctor Who moment. And it's one of the high points of the story. I really like the one guy, too. The one that's kind of the cowardly one throughout the first 2 parts. You know, he's all, we shouldn't do this. We need to get out of here. We don't need to be here. I like the fact that when the German, I guess, the guy is trying to wake up the Cybermen, he realizes what's happening and that it's bad, and he turns the machine back off so the Cybermen refreeze. And then the German bad guy kind of pulls out the gun and threatens him, you know, get away from those controls or I'll shoot you. And I gotta give the guy props. Even though he is a bit cowardly, he stands his ground. He gets like, no. And he gets shot and killed for it. So I gotta give him credit, since, you know, his fight or flight response is flight. He wants to leave. That's just some people's nature. But in that moment, he refuses to step away from the controls, even though the guy is pointing a gun at him. It takes some serious metaphorical balls to do that. And I just got to give him the props for that. I mean, he died because he refused to step away, because he realized that waking up the Cybermen was a bad idea. And since that goes such against his nature that he made that stand at the end, I got to give him props for that. Troughton, of course, is great, as he always is. I'm enjoying him in this story. I like the fact that you always know Troughton knows more than he lets on. Some of the looks and remarks he gives, I can't think of most of them right off. But like at the end of part 1 when he was telling Victoria about, well, just make sure you watch what you're touching and don't mess with anything. But he's looking at the other woman because he knows the other woman locked Victoria in there. There's a few times like where he does things like that, where he looks at him and says something in a tone and a look that says, I know. I just want you to know that I know. I can't prove it, but I know. Just like I like when the German woman or whatever, when she's going to have Talbot or whatever her servant character's name is, stay up there with her, Patrick Troughton's just like, the second doctor's just like, then I stay too. She said, well, of course he should go along with you. That grin Troughton has on his face when he says that, I'll stay too. It's that little shit-eating grin that's like, well, your move. I love that. And the fact he wants Victoria to stay up there and keep an eye on her because he knows not to trust that woman, which he's right. And of course, she locks them down there. My biggest problem with this story is the sets aren't that impressive to me, even by classic Who standards. And I get bored with seeing them, especially that main room up top where the little hatch is. I'm sick of that room. It's not impressive, and it's boring. And then all the other rooms are really tiny. Like when they're down there with the Cybermen, you know, the way they talk gives the illusion of it being a lot of little hallways, but you can tell it isn't. And of course, it gives the illusion when you see the Cyberman thing thawing out that little section's big, but you can tell it isn't. And so it feels small, but not in a claustrophobic, creepy, good way. the sets feel very boring, even by 60s Doctor Who standards. You know, a lot of the 60s sets I like. Some of them are very creatively done. Planet of the Giants, I love those sets. Or Planet of Giants, I think it actually is. I love those sets. But the sets for Tomb of the Cybermen don't impress me. And in episodes 2 and 3, you know, at least with episode 1, we were outside for a little bit. 2 and 3, you're pretty much sets the whole time. And I get very bored with those sets. I am convinced that Tomb of the Cybermen is only rated as highly as it is because it's complete. That's it. That's the only reason I feel like it is given the acclaim it is because it's complete. If the moon base was complete, I think it would be held in higher regard. If the invasion was complete, I think it would be held in higher regard than even Tomb. Because Invasion's still amazing. People still like Invasion. But if it was complete, I think it would be considered Troughton's definitive Cyberman story. Because I think objectively it is. It's so much better. But even when Tomb was first found in the 90s, if you watch people talk about it or read about it, they were disappointed with it. When Tomb was first recovered back in the 90s, people were disappointed. It didn't live up to the reputation the story had. Nowadays, people still kind of praise it like they did before it was found, but go back and watch interviews of it from the 90s or read about people talking about it from the 90s. They were disappointed with it when it was found. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. It's a good story. I like Tomb of the Cybermen. But it has the same problem the rest of Season 5 has, or most of Season 5 has. It's overrated. When I did my video recently talking about what season is the most overrated season in all of classic Doctor Who, my choice was Season 5. And I love Troughton. He's one of my favorite Doctors. And I like Season 5. But, as I pointed out in that video, every single masterpiece of Season 5 I consider overrated. Enemy of the World, overrated. Troughton is great. Oh, Troughton is great. But the story's too long, overrated. Web of Fear, great, but overrated. Fury from the Deep, ruined by the crappy animation. And Tomb of the Cybermen is just overrated. If I had to sum up Season 5 in one word, it would be overrated. If I had to sum up Tomb of the Cybermen in one word, it would be overrated. But in both of those cases, they're still good, really good, but not quite that masterpiece. You know, Tomb of the Cybermen isn't even... I've seen 3 of Troughton's 4 Cyberman stories, and it's in 3rd place. I prefer Invasion, I prefer Moonbase, even with episodes missing. Now, I'm still happy to have it. I'm enjoying my rewatch of it, especially since Ian sent me the special edition, which has been put through the vidfire process because I only had the original release. So it's nice to see this story in a better quality and with it looking more like the original transmission than what I had before. So I really appreciate Ian seeing that. But the flaws of the story are still there. And also, as much as I love that one scene, the talk the Doctor has with Victoria, I love that scene. The dialogue is phenomenally written. And Troughton and Deborah are amazing. I noticed there is some incidental music playing during it that bugged me. I don't know why. It just seemed louder. There's a little bit of noise and music in the background that doesn't need to be there. I'd swear when I watched that clip on YouTube, the music's not there. It's just the dialogue. It doesn't need music there. The dialogue and the acting sell it. But I'd swear where I'd never really noticed it before, there's a little bit of incidental music that's just in the way. There's a little bit of stuff going on back there. I'm like, that doesn't need to be there. You take the sound on that and when you put that on the Blu-ray edition, cut the sound from that. It doesn't need to be there. Or at least cut the music from that. The dialogue sells the scene. And it was enough to where I was actively making note of it as that scene was playing. It was bugging me because I love that scene. I've always loved that scene. When I watch it in the story, when I watch it in YouTube clips, I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes from Tomb of the Cybermen. And one of, I think, the second Doctor's best moments. But it was actively bugging me that the little incidental noise and music in the background was bothering me. So I wish it wasn't there. So yes, Tomb of the cannot talk today. Tomb of the Cybermen parts 2 and 3. Still good, but the backgrounds are getting a bit repetitive. The sets are irking me. But still a good story. The Cybermen in it I don't care for that design as much. I much prefer 10th Planet's design. As much as I love Moonbase, I never really cared for that design either. I much prefer 10th Planet design and the Invasion design. They look way better to me. And the voice, the Cybermen's voices in this story bug me, because half the time I can't tell what they're saying. When the Cyber Controller's talking, I'm just like... Sometimes I can understand it, sometimes I can't. So, maybe I just need to watch the title, not watch it with subtitles. There we go. So, Tomb of the Cybermen, parts 2 and 3. What do you think? I always enjoy hearing from you guys. So, comment down below and let me know. I want to thank Ian for sending me the special edition of this story. I am enjoying my watch through of it, despite what you may think. I am enjoying it. I want to give a shout out to 2 of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the 5th Doctor. I appreciate their support. I also appreciate a new patron who joined recently, Colin. I'm glad to have Colin joining me on the Patreon as well. I really appreciate him helping me out. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me down in the description as well. Also, my Amazon wish list is down there. I update that regularly if you would like to check that out. And if you have a minute and haven't yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button and that like button. That helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, the ever so pesky YouTube algorithm. So I certainly appreciate that. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.